like he did the last time, Ortiz gonna finish him.
Wow.
So he gotta tighten up his defense.
With their rivalry heating up, Terence Crawford has launched another vicious attack on Jaron "Boots" Ennis, claiming that his career will be finished by none other than Vergil Ortiz. Terence Crawford assessed Boots' weaknesses, stressing that the young fighter had to address his defensive shortcomings. He observed that Ennis often became overly aggressive and left himself exposed during exchanges. Crawford argued that although Boots had outstanding quickness and power, those traits would not carry him against top-tier opponents.
He's more explosive than most, but at the same time, he's shown in the past that he can get careless and that he's going out there just to fight, you know, and I don't think when you get higher and higher, that's going to be enough.
Sharing his prediction, Crawford suggested that Ortiz would put Boots down if he found himself in trouble, as he had previously. He noted that Ennis's habit of trading wildly made him susceptible to a lethal finisher like Ortiz. Crawford contended that Boots needed to stop brawling carelessly and refine his overall game. He emphasized that natural gifts alone wouldn't suffice against elite opposition, and that Ortiz had the finishing instincts to seal the deal if the chance arose.
If Boots get hurt like he did the last time, Ortiz gonna finish him.
Wow.
So he gotta tighten up his defense.
10 steps behind you, right?
He gotta tighten up his defense. He gotta stop exchanging. I know he's...
On the other hand, Ennis responded to Crawford's remarks regarding him and his fight with Ortiz, insisting that his skill set was far superior to what people were giving him credit for. He argued that his abilities surpassed not only his current peers, but even Crawford himself. Ennis dismissed any criticism of his defense, maintaining that his natural talent would overwhelm any opponent. He made it clear that Crawford had made the right decision to walk away. He left his message with a warning that Bud should stay retired because the new generation had already surpassed him.
You get him to come out of retirement and face you?
I ain't care about that. I ain't gonna lie. I'm locking on his inner eyes. You know, that skills fitter builds. He gonna see first. He gonna see first. As soon as the bell ring, he gonna see it's really different in here. Like he a lot faster than I thought, a lot slicker than I thought, a lot stronger, a lot powerful. It's really different. He gonna see firsthand. I think he'll be shocked.
Ennis also responded to Ortiz's claims, questioning why Vergil had turned down the opportunity to face him when it was first presented. He brushed aside Ortiz's knockout predictions, pointing out that his opponent was stationary and had previously hit the canvas on multiple occasions, asserting that his own abilities existed at an entirely different tier and that Ortiz would discover that truth when they eventually met inside the ring. He expressed no fear regarding Ortiz's punching power, suggesting that the real threat would come from his own offense.
Vergil came out and said that he was going to sleep you. So I just want to know your comments on those.
Why he ain't take the fight in the beginning? You know what I'm saying? Bro, I ain't be talking, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I'm trying to tell you, I'm really different. He gonna see firsthand. Cause he gets hurt a lot. He flat-footed and he been dropped multiple times. When he get hit by me, it's gonna be different. I'm trying to tell y'all.
And he's no walk in the park for no one, you know. So he's a threat to anyone that he stepped foot in the ring with, you know. Well, he got tremendous speed. He got great power, defense, reflexes, all that, you know. But the only thing that I can say is I'm 10 steps ahead of him. Like, I'm 10 steps ahead of him in smarts. And I think, you know, that's where he'd get in trouble.
Moving on, expressing his view on the ongoing rivalry between the two, Okoye pushed back on Crawford's assertion that he was far superior to Ennis, questioning whether Bud truly held such a commanding edge. He acknowledged that Crawford had more mileage in the sport, but insisted that Boots possessed elite ring intelligence that shouldn't be underestimated, observing that Ennis's aggressive nature often created openings for opponents rather than exposing technical flaws. He suggested that a more patient Boots would be extremely difficult for anyone to handle.
If Crawford were in a position to be hurt by Boots, and of course you can counter and do whatever you want to do. I think that's logical to say. But to say like he's 10 steps ahead, I don't see him 10 steps ahead of Boots. I think he obviously got more experience because you're an older fighter, but I don't see him 10 steps ahead of Boots in no fashion when it comes to the game of boxing. I think Boots is a very high IQ fighter, and I think your best chance against him is him. His own bravado, his own heart, and his own will to knock you the fuck out is the only reason you really got a shot against him. If he ever shut it down the way Floyd did when he started going up in weight and just say, look, I'm fighting off rhythm. I'm not putting a bunch of punches together, and I'm fighting like boring the way Floyd started fighting later, he'll wash everybody because he looking for everything. You know what I'm saying? Boots is giving you exciting fights because he's coming to hurt you.
Adding on, Okoye also responded to Crawford's digs about Ennis's resume, finding the criticism somewhat ironic given Bud's own career trajectory. He noted that Crawford had frequently faced the same scrutiny about his strength of schedule throughout his prime years, and argued that Ennis was still building his legacy and taking on meaningful fights, unlike Crawford, who operated at a different stage. Okoye suggested that applying that standard to a rising contender felt misguided and inconsistent, and maintained that Boots deserved recognition for stepping into the ring against formidable challengers early in his reign.
I thought he would beat Zayas too, but when you look at Crawford's career, until the end of his career, Crawford hadn't fought anybody that people thought that had a chance against him. You know what I'm saying? That was his biggest criticism, was his strength of opposition. So for him to use that same criticism on an up-and-coming Boots not at the tail end of his career, he's ascending, and he's fighting guys like that, right? So I think that that's the only knock I had, was to try to knock the opponent was my issue. But him going back and forth and saying what he think he can do against the Boots, I get that. You're a fighter. Fighters think like that. I don't think Boots would say. Boots said the same easy work, you know what I mean? Which, you know, that's just the way fighters are, because they look at it like, you know, at the end of the day.
Similarly, Tim Bradley shared his perspective on the Ennis-Ortiz matchup, and all those who are doubting him, including Bud, expressing confidence that Boots would come out on top. He dismissed any notion that Vergil's power would be a deciding factor, arguing that Ennis's all-around game is simply superior. Bradley maintained that Boots' speed and offensive arsenal would be too much for Ortiz to handle, suggesting that Vergil's straightforward approach would work against him against someone as dynamic as Ennis.
Yeah, with the Ortiz, we may see a completely different guy, especially if he gets touched.
Man, he gonna cook Ortiz.
Oh,
he gonna cook Ortiz just like he just got done cooking Zayas. Look, man.
But that was expected, though.
Listen to me.
You're talking about Zayas, a guy that isn't known for his punching power at all. That was
or his speed,
or
really his skills. He checks boxes at a decent level, but not at an elite level.
Yes.
But the thing is that he didn't feel the pop. You got to understand that about Boots.
Exactly.
Boots is willing to take yours to get his, and it's a trap, right? A lot of his flows, but I'm just telling you that I know it's not always a good thing, but it works for him, and I think that he fights off of feeling. That's what it is. It's feeling. You understand that, right?
On the other hand, Andre Berto expressed his views on the potential Ennis-Ortiz clash, cautioning that Boots could face significant difficulties against the Texan. He observed that Ennis's habit of trading in close quarters would be far riskier against a more formidable puncher like Vergil. Berto argued that while Boots had survived those exchanges against Zayas, Ortiz had the knockout ability to capitalize on such openings. Andre emphasized that Ennis's brawling mentality might prove costly when stepping up in competition, and concluded that Ortiz's power and relentless pressure would pose a much sterner test.
And just did what Philly fighters do, stay in the pocket and just bang it out. He can get in big trouble fighting a guy like Ortiz.
You got too much Philly in him, Tim.
Too much Philly in him, Tim, I'm telling you. I don't believe that he fought off of feel. I think that he fought off of instinct.
It's both.
I feel
is there a difference?
I mean, just off straight instinct of me getting hit, me getting hurt. Let me just sit down and bite down. I think that he's going to be able to do that. I mean, I really believe.
In other words, the way he feels is because he's Philly. Is when I get hit, I'm getting back. I'm getting my back.
Just like Tim, Johnny Ortiz reacted to Crawford's dismissal of Ennis's victory, brushing it off as pure envy. He observed that Bud had been the clear favorite in virtually all his contests apart from the Spence and Canelo bouts, and argued that it was unfair for Crawford to minimize Boots' accomplishment when he had benefited from similar expectations throughout his own career. He expressed frustration with the inconsistent standards applied to different fighters, and concluded that people were simply searching for reasons to undermine Ennis's success.
Yeah, it's called hate. Like right now, I'm tired of mentioning his name, but I seen Terence Crawford on the Sean Porter is like, oh, well, people hyping it up because he beat Xander. Nobody thought he would beat Xander. That's 98% of his career. The only debatable was Earl Spence and Canelo.
You mean everybody thought that he would beat Xander?
Yeah, like, but to give you credit, I mean, like, I ain't going bash because everybody thought you was going to win all the other fights in your career. Nobody thought it was like, oh yeah, Amir Khan, Kell Brook, Ndongo, Hank Lundy, and all that was going to beat you. You was always a heavy favorite besides in them 2 fights. So seeing the shed is all that is just, to me, is a little, I think it's competitive jealousy and all that. And
not holding back, Johnny also called out Vergil for his recent social media posts, accusing him of making excuses rather than competing. He noted that Vergil was dealing with legal troubles while simultaneously claiming he would put Boots to sleep. Johnny argued that Ortiz ought to sort out his own affairs before running his mouth about Ennis. He suggested that Vergil's trash talk lacked credibility, given his extended absence from the ring. He dismissed the comments as meaningless chatter from someone unwilling to back up his words.
Vergil Ortiz too, like he came out tweeting and shit. Like one thing about it, man, Vergil Ortiz he's straight up pussy. I look at this situation like, yo, and shout out to, you know, Robert Garcia. They usually have killers, Mikey Garcia, Bam, they all have heart. I'm not, that whole side, don't make it a side versus side thing, it's just Vergil Ortiz, he put. That could have been him fighting, that's one. You know you're going through these fake legal issues, because I don't even know if you're going through, I think it's just playing now, like you're going through legal issues, then you're going to sit there tweeting, why, oh yeah, watching Xander, distance Xander and Boots, like, oh yeah, I would put Boots to sleep. Man, shut the fuck up. You could, the first thing when he stepped to you, yeah, I'm about to fight Errol Spence, I'm about to fight, I don't know, I'd rather fight Errol Spence. That's a dream fight, and you disrespectful to Errol Spence too.
In contrast, renowned YouTuber analyst Showbiz the Adult addressed Crawford's remarks downplaying Ennis's victory, acknowledging that Bud was entitled to his own viewpoint. He drew a parallel between Crawford's dismissal of Boots' win and how fans once treated his own early career accomplishments. Showbiz argued that opinions were fair game, but criticized those now clamoring for a Crawford-Ennis bout after Bud had already retired. He pointed out that no one had shown interest in that fight when it was initially suggested, and concluded that the entire conversation was irrelevant since Crawford was no longer competing.
He thinks that we're overrating his victory over Xander Zayas a bit. Fine, certainly, I get it. Just like when you say, hey, why nobody give me credit for Ricky Burns and Postal and shit? And we're like, dude, get that shit out of here. Kell Brook, Sean Porter, we like, dude, you supposed to beat them when you beat them. That energy that Bud has for Boots and the Xander Zayas, that's why he's like, wait a minute, I whipped Ricky Burns' ass. Same shit. Everybody can have their opinions, it's fine. The only thing that bothers me is all of you booty buddies out there talking about, hey, Terence Crawford will whoop Boots. Boots ain't ready for Terence Crawford. Shut your asses up. Shut your asses up. Shut your asses up. Because we were saying this a while back, a year ago, even more than that. Terence Crawford versus Boots, and what y'all say? There's no money in it. Nobody want to see that. Nobody want to see that.
However, still holding out hope that this matchup would one day materialize, Bernie the Boxer acknowledged that Bud operated on a completely different level from Boots. He pointed out that Crawford's experience and ring intelligence would have been the deciding factor, similar to how Mayweather handled a younger Canelo. Bernie argued that while Ennis possessed tremendous athleticism and power, he lacked the veteran savvy that Crawford brought to the table. He made it clear that a matchup between the two would have mirrored the Mayweather-Canelo dynamic, concluding that the debate was now irrelevant since Crawford had already retired from the sport.
Yeah, so like I say, we just gonna, you know what I'm saying? Now that would have been a Canelo-Mayweather type deal. That would have been a Canelo-Mayweather type deal because Boots has a lot of talent. He's young, you know, as far as his career, he's young. And, you know, I mean, it looks like he got the world in his hands, but, you know, you got an old master like Crawford, just like Mayweather was. So that'll be the, you know, that'll have been the thing. You know, he had the athletic, you know, he had the athleticism, he got the speed, you know, and he got the power too, but, you know, the mind, you know, and Crawford might be, you know, like I say, a little older, but he might be a little smarter too, a little step ahead, you know, so just like Mayweather was. So I would compare that to the Canelo Mayweather joint, him and Boots. Bud and Boots, but
Meanwhile, Robert Garcia clapped back and weighed in on the potential showdown, expressing confidence that Vergil would get the stoppage if they met inside the ring. He highlighted Ortiz's recent victories over top-tier opposition, emphasizing how he made Madrimov look ordinary despite that same opponent giving Crawford trouble. Garcia also suggested that fans had already overlooked Vergil's masterful showings, particularly his swift finish against a former opponent that showcased his devastating capabilities. He acknowledged Boots as a talented fighter, but maintained that Ortiz possessed something special that set him apart.
Vergil, look, do people forget that it was just last year, early in that last year, that Vergil beat Madrimov and the way he did, and the skills that he showed, a Madrimov who almost beat Crawford, you know, and then Vergil goes out and does what he did with Madrimov. I think not only Timothy, but a lot of people might have forgot that already. And then he goes and dominates second round knocker Lubin. Man, you know, it hasn't been not even a year since Vergil's last fight. And it seems like they already forgot his last couple of performances, man.
Just like Robert, Teddy Atlas evaluated a possible Ennis-Ortiz clash, observing that Vergil had recently displayed a previously unseen ability to box from the outside. He highlighted that Ortiz's victory over Madrimov, who pushed Crawford to the limit, proved his versatility beyond just being a knockout artist. Atlas suggested that both fighters carried tremendous self-belief and resilience, which would produce an exciting contest, noting that Ortiz's evolution as a fighter made him a more complete opponent than many realized.
It'll be, you know, it could be a phone booth fight. Two good body punches. Two confident guys, you know. Two guys with great art. I mean, look, I say this. Vergil showed me a few fights ago that he had a dimension I didn't know he had. When he was just, you know, going through guys, knocking them out with body shots, sinking and destroying. I don't think I knew or anyone knew that he had the ability to use his legs and box and do some boxing. He showed me that dimension. He showed me that dimension in that fight that some people thought he lost. First fight that he got tested. We didn't get a knockout.
Furthermore, Atlas weighed in on other names, expressing enthusiasm for a showdown with Sebastian Fundora as well, observing that Fundora had grown more comfortable utilizing his towering frame and reach, constantly pressing forward with his jab. Atlas noted that while Fundora presented a large target, Ennis's precision punching could capitalize on that vulnerability. He argued that both possible opponents brought unique difficulties to the table for the rising contender. He concluded that either matchup would be worth watching.
And then, of course, the giant, Fundora. I mean, he's learning how to fight tall a little bit better. He is, a little better. But still, he is coming after you behind that jab. He doesn't stop. I don't know what his punch numbers are. They got to go through the roof. As soon as I think he jabs in his sleep. I think that he's, like, if you went in and you peeked in on him when he's sleeping like this. With that southpaw jab. The jab, he's coming out of the locker room. I think when he's eating dinner. He never stops. He don't leave you alone. And he's coming forward. He's always putting pressure. He's breaking you down. And then he puts punches together nice. He goes to the body. He throws uppercuts. You know, he puts them together real well. But he's tall and he's a target. And, you know, when he fights tall, it's a little tougher.
So, in the end, the consensus across the board seemed to be that Ennis had finally secured the signature victory that solidified his status as a legitimate superstar in the sport. While critics pointed to his defensive lapses and the moments of vulnerability against Zayas, most agreed that his ability to weather adversity and stop a game opponent spoke volumes about his championship resolve. The debate over a potential Crawford matchup had officially been rendered moot by Bud's retirement, leaving fans to focus on the more realistic and compelling options at 154 pounds. Ultimately, the boxing world seemed united in one sentiment. The Boots era had well and truly arrived. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown and what comes next, make sure to like and subscribe for more boxing news and analysis.